From the north side of the San Francisco Bay to Singapore, welcome to UrbanEx Real Talk Fitness Radio with your host, business owner, lecturer, author, master trainer, Tiaja. With over 30 years of experience in the health and fitness industry, he will challenge the fitness between your ears. So prepare your mind, body, and soul for the revolution of self-care, the evolution of fit, with real talk about real people, real health, real fitness, and the real deal behind our present illness culture. Real talk every time, all the time. Get weekly insights on how to shift your thinking, emoting, eating, training, hydrating, goal setting, and resting for you, the everyday athlete. You can cheat your fitness, but you can't steal your health flow. It's Tuesday, 9 a.m. Let's flow.
Welcome to UrbanEx Real Talk Fitness Radio News, where we don't bring you just the trending news, but also the news you need to know to assist you in making healthier choices for yourself, in the hopes that you will be successful in navigating the often murky waters of the health and fitness industry. I'm your host, Tiaja. We'll be back next week, but as promised, each month we're going to veer off the beaten path and offer you something a little bit different. There's a lot of strange and interesting stories in the news that are purposely underreported. Our purpose each month is to inform you about news that affect your health as well as the health of those in your immediate circle of influence. So don't forget to share our podcast with them and join in becoming part of your own revolution for self-care over healthcare. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019. Let's flow. In our first story, police are warning about the dangers of wasping. Yes, wasping. Wasping is using wasp spray to get high as an alternative to methamphetamine. According to reports, several people have overdosed on the insect killer in West Virginia alone. Officers at Boone County Police Department say they've seen a rise in people using the spray to get a meth-like high. Some use the spray by itself as a meth substitute, while others combine it with the drug itself. People may also use hot metal sheets to crystallize the liquid so that it can be inhaled or injected. Bug sprays contain active ingredients called pyrethroids, which penetrate the insect's nervous system to stun and kill them. But when humans ingest pyrethroids, they interfere with normal nerve signaling, causing abnormal sensation and sometimes seizures or paralysis. Other side effects of ingesting the chemicals include increased heart rate, difficulty breathing, headache, nausea, problems with coordination, swelling, and burning sensations as well. However, even just working with the spray can lead to severe illness, according to ABC News. It's especially dangerous for people with lung conditions such as asthma. Take a listen.
Your balance is off. You could be unconscious. You could be disoriented, to tremors, to seizures, to basically everything, nausea, vomiting.
These are the consequences of a new drug trend called wasping. That's when wasp killers mixed with other drugs like marijuana and meth.
Valley News Team's Veronica Marshall looks into why the dangerous trend is spreading and what it can do to your body.
They're almost like chemists themselves. They're trying to mix and match to try to find the next high.
There's a new way to get high, but it will cost you.
They don't know the long-term effects, but if you actually look at the science of it, it's something made to kill something. So long use of it, there's got to be some long-term effects.
But those consequences don't matter to everyone.
We don't think about tomorrow when we are using drugs and alcohol because we don't want to think. We want to numb out the pain.
The drug trend called wasping is making its way through the country. That's when users mix wasp killer with other drugs to get a stronger high.
Why would you want to ingest something that's going to kill you? You know, it's made to kill. Why would you purposely ingest something like that?
But drug counselors say users have their reasons.
It has to do with trying to combat tolerance. When the drink starts to wear off, what do we normally turn to? Either drinking more or using more, or mixing more than one to get a different or more desirable effect.
And that's not the only reason why combining wasp killer with other drugs is spreading. For one, it's cheap. You can get a more intense high for less than $6. Wasp killer can also be found almost anywhere. Anyone can buy it, and it won't get you in trouble with the law.
Typically, most things you're looking at that they're lacing it with are everyday stuff off the shelf. So that's not illegal to possess.
Now, first responders are hoping this fad fades before it's too late.
There is no antidote. There is no treatment really for the insecticides.
In Fargo, Veronica Marshall, Valley News Live.
First responders say when they find patients who are overdosing with illegal drugs cut with other unknown chemicals, they don't have a lot of treatment options. The best thing they can do is to help the patient breathe and hope the patient's body breaks down the drugs and the chemicals.
Our second story takes a closer look at a disturbing trend. Why are parents feeding their kids bleach? While it has been dubbed in some alternative medicine circles as miracle mineral solutions or MMS, there are growing concerns among medical and legal professionals over parents feeding a bleach solution to their children under the guise of it curing autism. But in some cases, the alarm isn't yet enough. Take a listen.
In this particular scenario, speaking of these private groups, we actually have someone on the phone, a mother of an autistic child. We're going to call her Karen to protect her identity. Karen actually joined a private online group of parents who are trying to cure their children of autism with these bleach enemas. And Karen, what did you find?
It was incredibly disturbing, incredibly alarming. I think the most disturbing thing that I came across was parents who were doing this protocol with their children, who'd been doing it for quite some time, and then were commenting in that things were not going well, that all the things that you would expect from doing these horrible things to a person were happening. Their children were vomiting, they were exhausted, their hands and feet were turning yellow, horrible things, aggressive outbursts. The kids were reacting because they didn't want this happening, I'm sure. Horrible physical things. And the parents were saying, what should I do to the group? What do I do now?
I was really astonished when I was reading about this, that the rationale for doing these bleach enemas, the thought is that autism is a result of the children having parasitic worms in their intestines. And the idea is that you're bleaching them out. Am I correct?
You're correct. The people will take the parasites to doctors, and there are articles saying why your doctor doesn't think that these are parasites. There's an answer for every question, very cult-like.
And let me really quickly, Karen, I want to show some pictures to the audience. These are disturbing and graphic photos that parents are posting in their private online group. And these are the things that are coming out of kids' bodies after these bleach enema treatments. We're not going to show these pictures to those of you at home, but you can see the audience's reactions to these photos.
And just to be clear, this is probably actually the lining of these children's intestines being shed
and
from
not
the
parasites.
bleach. No, there's no science behind any of this. None of this has had any evidence whatsoever.
That's why they won't go to the doctor. That's why they won't go to the emergency room, because they know there's no science behind it, and they know if they show up at a medical facility or a doctor's office, doctors as mandatory reporters are going to report them to Child Protective Services, and those kids could be removed from their home.
But these are serious symptoms. I remember hands turning yellow, feet turning yellow. That's a sign of liver failure. We're talking about nausea. We're talking about vomiting. We're talking about dehydration. I mean, these are real.
And yet, we're talking about autism, which is a neurological condition. It's not something that you treat with. Well, you don't treat anything, I imagine, with industrial bleach.
but as Karen acknowledged, it would be so easy to get caught up in this group think. And let me read some of these comments really quickly. And these are comments of parents who are writing about the results of the bleach enemas on their own children. Thank you. I am so happy those bastards started coming out. She was getting 15 to 16 doses daily, and we had a full moon, so this is great payoff. Yes. Now, another response to a parent claiming her son's hands and feet were turning yellow states: keep going. This is not a one-and-done deworming. The parasites may be weakened, but not yet killed. Think months, years, not weeks. We were on the protocol 18 months. And then, last but not least, another response to a parent claiming her son is experiencing more tantrums and defiance after the bleach enemas. Your child is doing better if she expelled them, the worms, without the enema. Could be the sign of a stronger immune system.
Karen, did any parents or anyone that's a part of this group push back and say this is wrong, you should consult a doctor, you're harming the kids?
Oh, absolutely not. There were a lot of warnings that anybody who spoke against it was from the other side and needed to be deleted.
And Karen, we want to thank you for sharing your experience with us.
You know, I just watched the remake of The Lion King Sunday with my family. It's a remarkable achievement in storytelling and animation. One of the many life lessons one can glean from Lion King is the natural interconnectedness of all things. The symbiosis, affectionately referenced as the circle of life, is more important today than ever. Yet the circle of life has been severely threatened, if not completely shattered, by modern technologies that disrespect the delicate/intricate balance of the sum of all worldwide ecosystems. What we seldom consider is how what we use chemically in our homes, businesses, and on our own bodies can have a deleterious effect on the environment. With that said, Time magazine produced an article a few years back titled, "Why Are Coral Reefs Dying? Sunscreen Killing Reefs." This was followed up by a more recent article published by National Geographic magazine, which further substantiates the Time magazine article's claim that sunscreen is indeed killing the coral reefs of the world. Now, according to both National Geographic and Times magazine, a chemical in this sunscreen may be contributing to the destruction of the coral reefs as swimmers trying to protect their skin venture near reefs. Researchers behind this study, published in the journal Archives of Environmental Contamination and Toxicology, found that the chemical oxybenzone has toxic effects on young coral that causes endocrine disruption, DNA damage, and death of the coral, among other problems. Oxybenzone also exacerbates coral bleaching, a process by which coral rejects symbiotic organisms and they lose their color. Bleaching has been particularly prevalent in recent years. Somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 tons of sunscreen enters coral reef areas around the world each year, according to the United States National Park Service. That's a lot of sunscreen, considering how little it takes to cause toxic effects. According to the research, toxicity occurs at a concentration of 62 parts per trillion. That's the equivalent of 1 drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now, researchers were careful to note that they are not advocating that swimmers stop sunscreen. Instead, they urge consumers to consider carefully what sunscreen they buy before swimming in the ocean. Sunscreens with titanium oxide or zinc oxide have not been found to harm reefs, according to the National Park Service. Additionally, swimmers can cover their upper body with long sleeve shirts or other apparel to reduce sunscreen use.
Tourism is Hawaii's #1 industry, and we are very grateful to have visitors come from all over the world to enjoy our beaches and the rest of our natural resources. However, the marine environments around an island are very fragile, and so the more visitors that we have, the more of an impact they have on all of our beaches.
We started noticing declines in coral reefs around 1980, 1985, which is about the same time that personal care products like sunscreen lotion were used prominently by tourists going to these beaches and visiting these coral reefs. What we're doing is we're looking at oxybenzone, a common UV chemical found in many sunscreen lotions and aerosol sprays. Oxybenzone can cause an adverse effect in coral at 62 parts per trillion. That is equivalent to 1 drop of water in 6.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So you don't need a lot to cause a lot of damage.
The researchers that offered this revolutionary paper, they in the lab have seen that these compounds are lethal to coral larvae. It also sterilizes them and it bleaches them at a lower temperature by 10 degrees. What that means is that if we lose a coral to bleaching or if it's damaged just from climate change, it can't recover.
Corals are animals. They actually have a basic immune system that is a lot like humans. They react when they're being stressed out. They're white, they're stressed. It's a lot like us when we're sick. We're pale and we're not as healthy, and that's what's happening to the coral. I've worked the last nearly decade on coral health and disease. I never thought in my lifetime I would see reefs just completely wiped out by bleaching. The level of alarm that I have now is higher than I thought it would ever be. We lose those reefs, we lose a large amount of income from tourism, from biomedical products, from coastal protection, and really importantly to communities, from food.
Oxybenzone is a toxicant. It can cause harm to humans, it could cause harm to mammals, it causes harm to fish at particular concentrations.
As it relates to human health, these chemicals are linked to causing breast cancer to become more aggressive, polluting breast milk, causing Hirschsprung deformity in newborns, and associated with women's uterine diseases, threaten male sexual health, and can damage DNA. There's evidence that oxybenzone is even showing up in our aquifers and our drinking water.
What we put on our skin, it's going to wash off and it flows into the ocean, whether you're in the middle of the U.S. and the mainland or you're right next to the reef.
Mother dolphins are exposed all the time to oxybenzone because it's there polluting the marine environment. And when the mother dolphins breastfeed, oxybenzone that it's contaminating the mother passes on to the baby.
Mr. President, I rise in strong support of the measure.
Please proceed.
Colleagues, this legislation is a big step forward for the protection of our coral reefs, marine life, and human health. It will be the first law passed not only in the country, but in the entire world, to ban sunscreens that contain the dangerous chemicals oxybenzone and octinoxate.
And finally, is your car killing you? There are numerous studies that found that the plastics in your car, particularly a new car, emit carcinogenic toxins and poisons that can kill you over time with constant exposure. The chemical most responsible for this is known as benzene. The side effects and complications associated with long-term exposure to benzene are even more numerous. The major complications of long-term benzene exposure primarily affect the blood, damaging the bone marrow and inhibiting the production of red blood cells. This results in anemia or the development of leukemia. The loss of white blood cells and antibodies can change the typical balance of the blood, causing even more issues. Long-term benzene exposure also suppresses the immune system, lowering the body's ability to fight off infection. I need to also note that the Department of Health and Human Services has classified benzene as a known human carcinogen, and the chemical has been associated with the development of a number of different cancers. Not surprising, there are now scientific studies that have come out to debunk these initial scientific findings or dismiss them as conspiracy theories. But one has to wonder if these new studies are funded by the car industry itself. But I digress. For this story, I decided to use the advice of an everyday American senior citizen rather than some scientist. Listen to what he has to say, then decide for yourself. But remember, as the old adage says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Hi everyone, it's Exo Man, and I have a warning for you. Call it a PSA if you'd like. But first, take a look at this. This is a hood over my window. It's just basically a plastic strip. I've had this car for probably 8 or 10 years, this truck, and I've had these on. I think you can just buy. You could probably buy this from the dealer for any model car or truck you have. But it's just a strip, like adhered to that window. You see how it's kind of glued on there, and that's the inside. You see how that vents my truck? I can vent the heat out of my truck. I leave my windows cracked, even if it's raining, and that vents it nicely. So, what I want to talk about is something that my son warned me about a few years ago, and then a friend followed up with today in more detail. And since my son warned me about it, I've been taking precaution, but it just occurred to me that not everybody knows, and probably a lot of people don't know about this, and that is the danger of benzene. Benzene is a chemical compound found in the materials in your car. It's in the ductwork of your AC system, it's in your dashboard, it's in various parts of your car, and it is extremely toxic and dangerous. With prolonged exposure, this stuff can cause death. It can cause cancers, things like leukemia. It can cause miscarriages. It can cause poisoning of the bones with prolonged exposure. And the problem is that your car emits this into the atmosphere inside. Okay, so when you have this closed up container, it's basically a gas chamber. Okay, and now let me say there's no conclusive study that links this to people's deaths per se, but benzene is studied and it is proven to be a deadly chemical, a very toxic chemical. So the problem is people are getting into these cars. It doesn't matter whether it's in the heat of summer and your car is baking in the sun, or it's in your garage. You're going to get exposure to this benzene, let's call it a gas. When you get in this closed off chamber and turn on your AC, you're basically sucking in these fumes. However, it is a lot worse. You're going to get a lot higher levels of this into your lungs, into your body. It's going to spread throughout your body if your car is baking in the sun. That's a really, really dangerous scenario. So again, no conclusive studies, but hey, who wants to breathe poison gases, a known carcinogen, into their body? And it no doubt will be proven. It'll be studied and proven. I think the more detailed information is coming from a neurologist out of Atlanta who's talked about this and written a paper on it. But I wanted to share that with all of you, and please share this video with your friends and loved ones. Let's get this information out there, because it's a small wonder with things like this. We're all being bombarded daily. It's a small wonder that so many people are being stricken with cancer and killed by this terrible disease. Please share the information. Please observe some sort of protocol. A good idea would be to get in your car, open your windows, drive your car and let it start venting before you turn your AC on. Or get in your car, turn your AC on, open your doors or windows, and let your car air itself out before you get in it and drive. Okay? So thank you to my son for sharing this with me and my family, and thank you to my friend for sharing this on the internet. And let's stay safe. Thank you all. Thank you very much for watching.
Now here are my 2 cents, and feel free to keep the change. The world around us seems to be changing so rapidly that it often seems impossible to keep up. With the advent of the 24/7 news cycle, social media, and smartphones, there doesn't seem to be a moment during the day whereby you can simply disconnect, de-stress, and hit the reset button. But you can. You can choose to change, unplug, or at the very least, use a surge protector. Plugging too many things into one outlet only risks a power outage, and that's where most people find themselves today, suffering from a power shortage or outage altogether. So we supplement with drugs like Adderall that keep us up and pills like Ambien to slow us down. We depend on drugs like opioids to anesthetize the pain, and take pills like Molly to make us feel something, anything, towards another human being, regardless of how low the vibrational frequency of feeling turned on. We opt for the quick fix when there are none, instead of artificially tuning out or tuning in or being turned off or on. Maybe we should slow down so that we can better appreciate this gift called life, which only requires us to stay tuned. The circle of life only requires one payment, and it has nothing to do with money, opinions, politics, or ideologies. See, life only requires that we pay attention. There's truly nothing new under the sun.